right, folks, back here on the Bossman show, friend of the show, Coach Reggie Witherspoon of the Canisius Golden Griffs up there at the MAC conference. Coach, good to see you, man. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm doing great, boss man. It's great to see you. That's right. See you. Not just talk, but to see you.
Yeah, hey, Zoom has made my life a lot greater, man. I can talk to you guys and see you now rather than do it over the phone. So, hey, the pandemic's been bad for us, but hey, the Zoom thing has really helped us get able to see each other. We do interviews now. Now we can see what we're talking about each other. So it's all good and chop it up
It's
that
all
way.
good. It's all good. Who's zooming who? Rita Franklin.
Yes, indeed. Hey, Coach, Wade, we just go back to March, man. You know, for me, it was my birthday, March 11th, when everything kind of shut down. That's the Hawks game and the Knicks game and said suspended, right? So for you guys, I know it's March Madness time for you guys. So how was it with your team when the coronavirus all came down, stuff getting canceled? So talk to us about how you and your team handled that rough period in March there, Coach.
Well, for us, our season had just ended. So we played a game in our conference tournament. And it didn't really hit. It was starting to hit us how heavy this really was. The whole notion of coronavirus, and where we were at the time. You know, we were in New Jersey, so a lot of cases were starting to come up. And we had just played Iona, which is in New Rochelle, New York, which was the real epicenter of this whole pandemic. And it was just completely hitting really hard at that point. And it was a shock, like, whoa, this is going to shut down everything. And when we found out what area had been hit the hardest, and we had just played against a team from that area, it was concerning. Now we also had a situation where we had a couple of officials, basketball referees who had our game, had a game of ours, who had contracted the virus.
Oh, wow.
And what that meant for us was, A, we didn't know if they had it when they did our game. And then B, in the tournament, we played a game, and the game before us in the same building, of course, one of the officials in that game had tested positive for COVID. And though he didn't do our game, he shared a locker room with the officials who did our game. So when his game was over with, he went in the officials' locker room, and he showered and changed. In the locker room when he was there, the officials were changing and getting ready for our game. So they shared a small space. Then those officials came out and did our game. So we didn't know at the time, did they have it when they did our game? So what that meant was, when we found that out, was we had to be in quarantine. Our entire team, our entire travel party had to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. And there weren't a lot of tests available, so you couldn't just go get tested. So you just had to hope you didn't have any symptoms, which thank God none of us did. But I remember going in, I was driving into work one morning, and I got a call saying, just turn around and go back home because you can't come in. And, went back home and just kind of, as I look back now, at that point I was thinking, because even though the virus was starting to swell up, you didn't really have a lot of people you knew with it. So I wasn't thinking maybe I have it. I was just thinking, okay, that means I can't go anywhere for 2 weeks. I can't go to work. So I was going to work from home. As I think back now, there were people who got the virus, game officials who got the virus, who got very sick. Some of them, at least in one case, is still kind of recovering from that. And we know people who have died from it. So, including my uncle. So, now looking back, we're like, whoa, but there were no, you couldn't just go get a test. Mask wearing wasn't that easy. We just go pick up a mask and it wasn't that. So you just like sitting home. Did we know we were going to be doing that for months and months and months? No.
Yeah, I'll say here, Coach. So we played the New York Knicks. I was kind of scared, because we played the Knicks that night on my birthday. So I'm like, wow. Now, I was still doing what I was doing, but it was still scared me because I'm like, wow, we played the New York Knicks here, and
Right.
they had fans here from New York.
Oh,
So
wow.
like the Knicks fans
Wow.
always pack out Hawks games, always.
Wow.
So like, it was like I was scared, but thank God nothing happened. So, but yeah, Coach, I share sentiments like, having it kind of hit you because who you was around right before everything went down, definitely a scary concept.
Right. I mean, that, when you think of how many cases an area like New York City would have, that's frightening. You don't know who has it, who doesn't. And it's still frightening because the way we're trained to think is, well, as long as I'm not around somebody that's sick, I can't get it from them. But that isn't how this works. Somebody could give it to you that's asymptomatic. And, it's not, you have to protect yourself. You have to have on a mask at least, and socially distance and wash your hands, because someone could, you could interview somebody and they could be perfectly healthy, but they could pass the virus to you.
Most definitely. Now, I went to wearing goggles, Coach. Like I wear like the old school Horace Grant Rex Specs goggles with my contacts.
Man,
check,
you know what?
check the eyes because you can get to
That's
your eyes too.
That's smart, because now what we're learning is that people who wear glasses or who wear goggles, because they decreased the chances of you getting it.
Most definitely. So yeah, I went to that. I put on when I go outside, Coach. I take off the tinted shades, put on the contacts of my goggles. People look at me like I'm weird, but hey, I said the virus get through your mouth, your nose, and those are virus entry points. Eyes, nose, mouth. So if I got that covered, I can decrease my chances of getting sick that way. And plus, having asthma, I have to stay with people because I have asthma too. So
Oh, wow.
I gotta make sure I'm healthy to do the Bossman show and talk to
That's
Coach
right.
Witherspoon and other people. I can't be sick. It's only the Bossman these days. So, no Bossman, no Bossman show, Coach.
That's right. That's right. Man, you're doing some wise things, man.
Yes,
You really are.
hey,
You've done some homework, boss man.
Oh yeah, well, Coach, I use the common sense. Like a virus, it gets to your eyes, nose, and mouth, and hands. It's surfaces, right? So, hey, this is a virus, right? So the same concepts, but see, people are not talking about the eyes. They're talking about mask. They're not discussing the eyes because it's airborne.
Right.
Like I said this at the beginning. No, any virus is airborne. Why they on the elevator, somebody sneezes or coughs, you may get sick too because they're droplets in the air. So I feel like, Coach, a lot of people are not using common sense about this. That it's a virus. Viruses do what? They're airborne. They entry where? Eyes, nose, mouth, 3 entry points, hands, surface, touch, face to eyes. So like, hey, how do you stop that? Goggles. And I wear a double mask, an N95 mask with a cloth over it. So because to having asthma, I got to take extra precaution, of course. So I feel like I tell this every week. It's common sense, people. We're making it harder than it has to be, Coach. I tell this all the time. Make it harder than it has to be.
That's right. You are so right. I do. I wear a shield when I'm in the gym with the guys. If I'm in there for too long a period of time, but I always have a mask on. When I'm indoors, because we got to take precautions while we can, because once you have it, you have it.
Yeah, and it's right here, Georgia State, one of our quarterback here, a great talent. He got the virus, but his heart inflamed with that microcardosis from COVID-19. He can infect your heart, your lungs. So even a guy that's 20 years old has some lingering effects now. So we gotta take it cautious, because even when you don't have quote unquote the corona symptoms, it's messing with your kidneys. It can cause lung damage, your heart. So it's attacking every system we got. So when you get it. So knowing that, I'm trying to tell my listeners here, Coach, all the time, man, you have to take this seriously. And you can't get impatient. You can't get that whole I'm sick of being tied up, because I was gonna say you're here today for what you did yesterday. Because you go act the fool yesterday, you might not be here today. And you might get something you don't want.
That's right.
And it could be like, hey, You know, you can take your eye from me, coach. I'm a single guy. I said, look here, I want to go see some gals, but I don't want to take an L for that moment of pleasure.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, I had a good. Hey, he got one more off, but he's heading below now.
You know,
Hey,
you know,
I was still for one reason, I was still for another way, and he ain't coming back. So I don't want that.
you got to be careful, man.
So
You
yeah,
and um, you're right in that there's other lingering effects. So you said the quarterback from Georgia State.
yeah, inflamed heart from COVID-19. No symptoms, but now he has an inflamed heart. So from the having COVID. So even when you're not symptomatic, it's still doing something to your body. It's doing something to you. So that's the part that people haven't come to grips with. And unfortunately, in Atlanta, we don't have a mask mandate here. So we have bars open, nightclubs, having clubs, having an indoor pool party inside of a club, bringing a portable pool in a club, filling up, having an indoor pool party. I don't get it. I'm like,
Wow.
why? And you know, Atlanta's a minority city, so a lot of us get it the worst, and we're
Right.
the ones being the fools out here. Like,
That's right.
what are we
That's
doing?
right.
So,
And you mentioned one other thing. You mentioned about basically having endurance, having because we get tired of the inconveniences, and when we get tired, we lose endurance, and that's when we need encouragement to just say, you know, we got to keep through this thing until we can officially get through it. We'll get through it, but we got to have enough endurance to say, okay, I know I'm tired of wearing this mask. I wish I could have it the way I used to have it, but we got to have endurance enough to say, I'm going to do this until it's over.
yes, that's the big picture, coach. Trying to make my listeners understand. Hey, I tell them every week, coach, we have to fight the good fight. You want to stay alive. I mean, a moment of fun can be your demise.
That's right.
And you don't want to take that risk. I like breathing still. I have a lot of impact in this world still. I like being here. You know, I'm not ready to go see the Lord yet. You know, I want to be here a little bit, a while longer.
That's
so
right.
I talk to my listeners every week, coach. Give them hey, please be safe, take precautions, don't get impatient. Just
don't get impatient. That's the key.
Yes.
Don't lose endurance. Right?
Yes.
You know, because a moment of fun goes by quick when you compare it to an opportunity to live.
Yes.
A moment of fun is really only about 10 seconds when you compare it to an opportunity to live.
You got that right, coach. So you're so right. And coach, for your young men, having to go from on campus to virtual, how was that academically for your young men? I know it was kind of when they went back home, you know, they miss a class, usually can get some of them, make them run something, make them do some conditioning work. But when they're at home, all you have is the blackboard looking at what they're doing. So how did you guys handle academically being virtual from being on campus all semester long?
Well, it was a challenge going back to the spring because also we're not seeing them. We didn't have that FaceTime to be able to see them and have them see us. Now, fortunately, you know, I said this not just because we're on Zoom, but I said I never heard of Zoom until March, let alone used it. I haven't really heard of it, you know. And I have FaceTime on my phone, but I'm gonna tell you, I probably didn't use FaceTime no more than 20 times total on my phone. But after that happened, I was on Zoom and FaceTime all day, every day. And the idea was, you know, we were all going through it, but for younger people, you know, our guys, I didn't want to run the risk of losing that contact with them. So we as a staff, we really worked hard just to keep them encouraged, keep them organized if we could, and follow up and follow through with them on assignments and quizzes and tests and just study halls. And we did as much follow-up as we possibly could, and we had really our best semester that the men's basketball program has had in a long time was the spring semester. And then now they're on campus. Some of the classes are virtual. As you know, New York State is a very strict state. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
started off with this COVID, and it was tearing apart the state. And we've gotten ourselves to the point where we're actually doing very well. I feel as though we've gotten great leadership, and we're following the science, but it's very strict.
Mm-hmm.
So as we come back on campus, if you're from a hot spot state, when we started in the fall, our guys would have to quarantine for 2 weeks if they were from, if they were international students. So we have internationally, we are represented by the Netherlands, 2 from the Netherlands, 1 from the Ukraine, and 1 from Canada. Well, the kid from Canada, Scott Hitchin, never went back home. So he stayed here the whole time. So he didn't have to quarantine when fall semester started. But the other 3 young men all had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And then if you're from a hotspot state, we had 1 from Maryland. Maryland's a hotspot state. We had 2 from Ohio. At the time, they came here 2 weeks early. And they came on, so they arrived on a Monday with the intention that they were going to have to stay in their room for 2 weeks and not come out.
Wow.
They got here on a Monday. On Tuesday morning, Ohio dropped off of the hotspot state list. So 1 went back home, but he knew if you go back home and they go back on the list, whenever you come back, you got to quarantine for 2 weeks. He ran that risk. It worked out well for him. The other young man stayed, did his quarantine anyway. But it just speaks to how the things had to be adjusted to. That if you come from a hotspot state, and it's still that way. So it relates to scheduling too.
Most
we
definitely.
can't really schedule a game against a team from, say, where you are, Atlanta, Georgia. That team would have to come here and quarantine for 2 weeks and not do anything, and then play us on the 15th day, which is obviously not going to happen. And we wouldn't be able to go play them because we'd have to come back and quarantine for 2 weeks. So we've had to really adjust to this whole different way of learning and doing things. Now, I'll say this, for our guys right now who are in class, some of their classes are virtual. We're trying to get our guys away from the notion of having to be in a classroom, because one of the other things that's being done, not just in our state and statewide, but it's being done in our county, is that if a young man or a young lady is in a class and it's 55 minutes or longer, and someone in that class tests positive for COVID, the entire class, including the professor, has to quarantine for 2 weeks. And
Wow.
That's with a mask. So you have to be, if you're on our campus indoors, you have to have on a mask. So you could be with a mask, but that's just, so we don't really want them in classes that are going to, if they have classes that are 50 minutes, and they're in person, they can do it. But some of these classes are an hour and 20 minutes, and we don't want them in those classes for that long. So it's a lot of adjusting, a lot of things that you have to get used to, and things you have to do differently.
Yeah, I was asking about that, Coach, because I've seen some of the contracts for non-conference games with the COVID clauses where you only get paid for travel, and if it's fans there, it's this number. If it's no fans, it's this number. So are you all people going to play non-conference games up in the Northeast area, kind of find schools up there that are willing to pay, that has the money to pay, where you can bus in one day and leave? So how has scheduling been with knowing you had previous contracts, MTEs probably that you had booked, and how's that going to be with November 25th to start date now? So 2 weeks to get guarantee games are gone now. So how has that been, Coach Kells, in these games here for 2020 and 2021?
It's been a struggle, Bossman, because the guarantee games are difficult to get. Number one, they don't have fans to generate the kind of revenue that would warrant them paying or wanting to pay. Number two, because of what you mentioned about the travel, we pretty much are limited regionally, but not just. We're fortunate that in our conference, we have Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. And those 3 states have been on the same path in terms of how they're going to fight coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
So with the mask mandates, the numbers have been very similar. Nobody's been in the other person's quarantine list. So we're fortunate in that regard. Now, as it relates to non-conference, we had an MTE that we were going to be a part of, that we can't. It was we had contracted it. We were gonna be scheduled to go to Wyoming. We're gonna be scheduled to go to California and scheduled to go to the state of Washington. All that travel, we would have had to quarantine for 2 weeks when we got back, so that's not going to work. So we're having to rearrange, who we're going to play and how we're going to do it, and we still haven't completed that process. We have some things that we're talking about, but we haven't completed that process.
And
So,
and coach, does that mean contracts get pushed to next year? Hopefully, because some coaches have told me about trying to get them done in the following year, just trying to play regional games with the ones who may be willing to pay this year, or just play guys on your level, just to get some games in before you get into conference play. So I know it's been difficult for you guys, and I feel for you, especially up there in the Northeast, man. So you're thinking maybe going some teams, other conferences, like kind of on your level where you don't have to really just worry about the money, just make sure you get some games in before the conference play starts. I know the MAC is a very tough conference that you guys play in for sure.
Yeah, well, you're right. You're absolutely right in terms of how we're thinking about this. And in addition to that, so games in our area, for instance, Ohio is a close state. It's not bordering, but it's very close. For instance, like Cleveland is 3 hours away. That's close enough, right? Or Youngstown State's even closer than that. They're less than 2 hours away. But the problem is, because of the quarantine challenges, I don't know that we can do that. So we got to look at like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, and then say, is it close enough where we can go up there and, not have a long bus ride? But the first part of it is, okay, let's eliminate the states that would cause us to quarantine or cause our opponent to quarantine. And I think in doing that, now we've kind of narrowed it down a little bit, because we're only going to probably be able to play. We think right now it looks like we might be able to play 4-5 non-conference games at the max right now, and 20 conference games. So, there's some schools we have been playing every year. St. Bonaventure and Buffalo, we've been playing them every year. And if we play them again, then we really only have to get 2 to 3 games. So if we don't, then it'll be a little bit more. But those are games that Buffalo's 20 minutes away, at the most, and St. Bonaventure is probably an hour and 20 minutes away. So if we play those two, it kind of keeps us out of having to go think about, So but it is a process, because they're going through the same challenges.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Now, Coach, how are you trying to get ramp up the guys? No, when they was at home in quarantine and they couldn't really work out the way you want them to, maybe give them workouts via Zoom with the strength coach. So how's it been trying to get the young men ramped back up so they don't get a knee, ankle that lags all year long? Because when the guys go too hard, when they haven't been inactive for a while, that injury bug can creep into you real fast.
Yeah, that is a challenge, boss man. We have only had access to our gym now here for about a week.
Wow.
Because the other thing New York State does is, gyms have opened in the last phase. As we mentioned, there's so many different pathways for this virus to exist, and the gym really opens up those pathways. So the governor and his scientists have said, we're going to hold off on that. You have to meet approvals for ventilation. So they have to come out, you get it certified, then you get it approved by the state, and there's a process involved in. We have just now, today is the first day our guys will have been in the weight room.
Wow.
Since last February, March.
Wow.
So it is a challenge, and you're right. You have to kind of try to do it gradually. We try to gradually build up to getting them back in condition, because it's not an easy thing to do.
Most definitely. Now, Coach, how about this? For your guys getting back on campus, and what else is going on in our country, Coach? How have you talked to your young men about that via Zoom? What's going on in the country, trying to get them to understand the importance of voting, and that, hey, once you take off that uniform, Canisius, man, you're just a young man in America. You know, whether you be black, white, or whoever. You just got to carry yourself with the right mentality. So how have you talked to young men about what's been going on in the country, letting them give voice to you about, how they can be better as young men being in your program?
We've had a series of Zoom calls and a lot of one-on-one calls too. I've spent just to try to get to know our guys at that level. I've always tried to prioritize that and make that important. And so, this has been a real challenge for young people. And sometimes we can get disconnected by age. So I try to spend time one-on-one with our guys to just talk to them about, the values and the outlook and the way the world is looking and what's going on in the world. And then as a group, we've got almost everybody registered to vote, which that's a challenge. We have one more person that we got to get registered to vote. And then getting them to follow through and actually vote. So we've discussed the importance of the responsibility to vote. The next thing in terms of issues related to race. So our conference has done an initiative, a Black Lives Matter initiative. There are going to be patches on the uniforms,
Nice.
pins on the lapels if the coaches wear like sport coat or suit jacket, signage around the court, which they're in the process of determining what the signage will say. So there's some heightened awareness around all of this. And it's really a learning opportunity for our entire country, because it's a real volatile time. There's some people who will oppose certain things and not really know what they're opposing.
Most definitely.
So, there has to be discussion. And I think amongst our guys, I'm told by them that they've had their own individual discussion about what's right and what's wrong, and, and what they value, and just respect and how to treat people. And so that's kind of a continuing dialogue. And I think our guys are growing and learning from it, because, as I said, we have 4 young men on our team that were not born in America. And some of them have their own experiences surrounding issues of race, but they haven't had those experiences necessarily in the U.S.
Got you.
And then we have, the other guys on our team are African American. They're young Black men who've had very real experiences around issues of race, whether it be with the police or whether it be just in general. And to try to get them to see the same thing, to not necessarily experience it the same way, because that would be difficult. But did you see this happen? Now, see, one of the things I think happened with the pandemic is the issue with George Floyd was kind of indefensible. And there have been things that people have tried to defend that have been reasonably indefensible, but that one is completely, you can't really defend that. And it happened at a time that we all know that that's not the first time something like that has happened. But the difference with that one is it happened when the entire world was shut down. And 8 minutes and 46 seconds is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't say I didn't see it unless you just didn't have cable.
They want to see it.
Right? If you had cable or Wi-Fi,
yes,
and you were blessed with sight, you saw it. But even if you didn't have cable, Wi-Fi, or having been blessed with sight, you heard about it from someone who did. And so it's kind of undeniable and indefensible. So I think it caused conversation. And so now I think it's out there and people are talking about it. You can't ignore it. And then obviously that isn't the only one that has happened, but that has caused discussion about the other issues of police brutality or murders at the hands of the police or just racism in general. And you can't really get away from it. And so it's a learning opportunity, and hopefully the country grows from it. But we've tried to kind of use that as a discussion with our team, with our staff. We've always kind of talked about things like that, and listen to one thing I think that that we have to do with our young people is be willing to listen to them.
Yes.
And let them just tell you what they think. And then, and I've had to do this with my own kids. I had 2 daughters. They might not see it the same way I see it, but I have to listen to them, because in some cases they might see something I didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with someone like me, I've seen this happen so often that I got to be careful not to accept it.
Most definitely.
And they say anything you get used to, you accept. And I haven't accepted it. But if I'm not careful, young people could look and say, I think he's accepted it. So you got to kind of listen to them and let them express what they're going through and how they feel about it and how certain things have made them feel. And then, discuss with them those feelings from a historical perspective. And hopefully the younger people will listen to us as well.
And Coach, I got 2 more for you. Tell us about the key guys returning on your roster this year that we had to look out for, and your newcomers as well, Coach.
So the good thing is we lost a good chunk. Like Malik Johnson was a 4-year starter, 4-year captain, point guard. Corey Brown was just with us for 1 year, but he ended the season as a starter for us. And Dante St. Louis didn't necessarily play a lot, but he was with us for 4 years. So we've had a kind of a combination of experience that played a lot, experience that didn't play a lot, and a guy that wasn't with us for a long time, but that ended up playing a lot. But we have, I think, a good nucleus of guys that last year kind of got thrown in the fire, but hopefully it will pay off. Hopefully last year is more of an investment from the standpoint that like Jaco Fritz and Armand Harid played a lot of minutes as freshmen, a lot of minutes. Jaco being on the all-freshman team. Probably more minutes than maybe what may have been good for them at that moment, but hopefully it'll pay off this year. Jordan Henderson played through some injuries. It was his sophomore year, and he played a lot of minutes through some injuries. And hopefully that begins to pay off for him as now his first year of being an upperclassman. He's a junior. We had a young man, Akram, and Akram got hurt. So he played in about 6 games. But he played. He was in quality minutes. He got quality minutes in those games. And hopefully that begins to pay off for him. Jelani White and Scott Hitchin and Majesty Brandon are all seniors. And Majesty was in his first year with us last year because he was a junior college transfer, ended up being our leading scorer, came off the bench. But it was a lot of responsibility. It was a lot of things that were new to him that now he is hopefully a little bit more. He gradually gained some comfort about being out there and playing all those minutes in his first year as a Division I basketball player. And Jelani and Scott, they went through that even as sophomores. They played a lot of minutes, probably more minutes than maybe what they were, ready for. But now they're seniors, so the hope is that pays off for them.
Definitely.
And then Malik Green transferred to us and had to sit out. So he sat out all last year. He played a lot of minutes as a sophomore, so he'll be a junior for us, and we're hoping that pays off for us. And then we brought in some guys too. Malik Brooks is a walk-on for us. He played football last year and decided he wanted to go back to basketball, transferred, and is coming in as a walk-on. But 2 freshmen, Asa Baya and Seam, who's from the Netherlands. Asa went to a prep school. seen play internationally, so they maybe have a little bit more experience than a kid who's coming straight from high school.
Most definitely.
And then we signed 2 junior college guys, and I think that both of them, Amadou Fofana and George Maslinikov. George has had some Division I experience, but didn't play a lot at DePaul. Is a big guy that has some potential, and Amadou played a lot of minutes and a lot of responsibility, and ran a team and led a team, and was familiar with our program because his junior college was right down the street. He was very well coached in junior college, and in fact, his junior college coach is the father of Jordan Noir, who played at Louisville. So our hope is that he'll be able to hit the ground, running a little bit. And so we're excited. The question is, we have, as I mentioned, 5 new guys. We have 1 guy who sat out and hasn't played a game for us yet. So that's 6 guys who haven't played a game for us, which is basically half our roster. And we have a shortened amount of time to get them. They haven't played with each other. So we got to get them on the court and get them not only just accustomed to what our expectations are, but they got to become accustomed to each other and where their strengths and weaknesses are.
And last one out for you, Coach, is recruiting via Zoom. How was recruiting via Zoom this time around? Is that something you keep going forward? And, Coach, for the listener in Atlanta, if young ones come to Canisius, tell them, give them a sub on, come to Buffalo, New York to keep playing for Coach Witherspoon, legendary Coach Witherspoon with that great offense he runs, guys. You'll love it.
That's right, boss man. Well, first of all, my wife and I love Atlanta, Georgia. We spent a lot of time in Atlanta, Georgia. And we love it. And that's a great question about recruiting with Zoom, because we signed 4 guys, and 3 of them, I didn't meet them in person until they got on campus.
Wow.
The one had, done a visit in the fall and got to know him, and I actually had met him years before. But 3 of these young men, I met them and their families, all on Zoom, all on FaceTime, talked to them every day. 2 of them were in a completely different time zone, in a completely different country for part of the time, and 1 of them was in a completely different time zone in a total different country for the entire time until he came and arrived on campus to take classes. And when I saw them, it was like, wow, okay, I've seen him in person now.
Yes.
So it was just a completely different. If you had asked me to visualize this a year ago, I would have said impossible. You can't do that. You can't. How do you do this? But fortunately, we were able to do it, and I do think it's going to become a big part of how we operate. I don't know that we obviously don't want it to be the exclusive way of recruiting, because we had to watch a lot of video, 5 and 6 games of these guys on video. But I do think it's going to become a part of it, and how we communicate with families and coaches and all of that. We don't just have to use the phone. We can actually see people like Bossman and myself are seeing each other right now.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, Coach, I hope some young men in Atlanta will come play for you, because you have my stamp of approval. I will tell them, hey, Coach Reggie Witherspoon will take care of you. He's my guy. He got your back. So most definitely play for my man, Coach Witherspoon, for real.
That's right, boss man. We love to have some folks from Atlanta, Georgia, because we know they'll be able to play.
You got that right. We got some ballers in the ATL, as you know, man. So,
right.
Okay, Coach, it's been good to catch up with you, man. I miss seeing you, man. I hope to see you guys in person real soon, man, once all this COVID stuff stops. And hopefully you'll play a game down this way here real soon as well, man. I might need to talk to my guys and maybe get y'all some money down here to come play, man, so we can everything gets going, man.
All right, boss, man. We love for it to happen.
Hey, Coach, be safe, man. Tell your wife hello and your family. Hey, best luck to you, buddy. We'll talk real soon now.
Okay, thanks, boss, man.
All right, now.